Welcome to the Sparky Coach podcast. This platform was built by Sparkies for Sparkies. We simply exist to make business owners more profitable, or businesses more profitable and more predictable. So we want to work with people that work hard because we love working hard too, that work smart because you got to be on top of the business, people that are kind because no one likes a dickhead. Am I right? People who want results because that's what we're here for, right? And people who want to be part of a like-minded community. So if you're interested in hearing more about the platform, please reach out and enjoy the podcast. What's up? Crow Dog here with Cam.
What's up?
Chatting you through success, how to be sexy. No, we're talking today about probably both those things actually. Talking about is there a tipping point where you go from unsexy to sexy? And now we're talking about, is there a tipping point where business becomes easier than and I know sometimes
Subjectively easier.
Easy, subjective word. Sexy is a subjective word. Business is a subjective word. There's like many subjective parts in this, but talking about a common, I think at our live pod, I was suggesting that, how long did I have Crow Electrical for? 13 years. And I reckon there was a stage after about that 7-year mark where I felt like it just became, we had a good reputation. People would approach us. You go from the hunter becomes the hunted, so to speak. So you go from hustling, calling, actively chasing. Not saying you're still not doing that later in the game a little bit, but people start to call you. Your reputation precedes you. And people are, oh, actually, yeah, I heard about those guys. I'll get them to quote this. I heard about those guys. I'll get them to come into my house. And it's just because if you've done 100 jobs, X amount of people know about you. If you've done 10,000 jobs, Y amount of people know about you. If you've been driving your cars around that area for 10 years, it's a lot different to driving your cars around that area for a month. If you've got 500 Google reviews, it's a lot different to having none. If you've got a really good website and Instagram and it says something you've been established for 10 years, it's a different. And I think there's many factors that play into it. And we sort of get asked, like, what is the tipping point of that? And I guess to some extent, there is no tipping point. And success is incredibly subjective. It's like, what do you want? More money or more time with the kids or a bit of column A, a bit of column B? Or do you want 10 staff or 20 staff or 5 staff? And do you want like 5 mil revenue and 10 mil revenue? Or do you want $1 million revenue? Are you happy? Are you not happy? And I think you can overestimate what you do in a year and underestimate what you can do in 5 years. Generally speaking, you can go, I want to do this and this and this and this and this now. And we're impatient. We scroll through Instagram. You've got I could look up anything I wanted to. Who was the first man allegedly on the moon? We should know that. But let's say I look it up. I could look it up. Did the moon landing happen? I could look it up. I could look up anything. I could find out any data I wanted within a blink of an eyelid.
And find really good arguments for both.
Yeah. What do you think out there driving in the car? Someone's yelling, going like, it was a conspiracy. Who bastard?
And the next minute, you're down a rabbit hole.
Next minute, your algorithms pinned you on some obscure activity. And next minute, the CIA is after you. They're at the front of your house and they want your data and detail. Anyway, it's interesting to talk about. And I feel like the tipping point for me, I'm going to say it took me 5 years to get my head around numbers. And I like numbers. So I had a false start in the number sense. And that false start, it also brought a head start, I would say. So the benefit of knowing your numbers is you can be profitable, make money. The benefit of not knowing your numbers is you can be in some ungodly quotes at some ungodly times with some ungodly people, and somehow you make it work, and you learn and you adapt. But you get clients. So so if you want to, let's just say hypothetically, I think I was talking to 40 about this, and I've got many stories like this. The Betty's Burgers he said if they quoted it now, it'd be $100,000. But he quoted it back then at $50,000. And they won that job, obviously, because if you were the CEO of Betty's Burgers or the CEO of your company, and you're looking at one quote for your office fit out for $100,000 and one for $50,000, and they were both said, "Hey, we can do this for this." What are you going to do? I will sing this. What would you do if someone's at home crying? What would you do? Of course, if you had a choice for your kid's bike for $10,000 or $5,000 and both bike shops wore black and blue. Yeah, this is the, I'm not a bike person, but this is the Mongoose 45.0. It's got like,
Stunt pegs on the
it's
back.
got the sick ass rims on it. They're stainless. It's got those spoke things, you know, those colored spoke that go up and down. And it's got a water bottle holder. And they're both swore black and blue. It was 10 grand off. What are you going to do, right? It's reference at your own. And until you renovate or do something serious, you don't understand how important this factor is. I think until you actually do something serious with your money, you underestimate how important price is in someone's decision. Because there's obviously price goes hand in hand with scope, and reputation goes hand in hand with price. And there's many factors to consider. But let's face it, if you can pay $10 for coffee or $3 and it's exactly the same product, what are you going to do? And that's pretty much where you sort of draw the line. So price is an incredibly important factor in most people's decision. It's not the be all and end all. There's relationship and reputation, but yeah, it's interesting. So I remember so pricing low and not knowing I was low because I was too busy, and I think I came out of the gate strong. Like I started a business in my local area. I knew lots of people from school and surfing and football and all this kind of stuff. I say football, but it was OzTag, you know. Just talking myself up. It was like C grade mixed OzTag or something. But listened to lots of people from just being around, and I like talking to people. And your friends have friends, and you know your families have friends, and all that kind of stuff. And I grew up in the one town my whole life, so there's lots of people that I knew just organically. I was part of a church too, so that a church is like it's a BNI basically. It's just like exposure to more people. Like where are you going to know 1,000 more people? Like that's there's not many places that you get to know that many people. So I had lots of pros in that sense. The con that I had, I didn't know my numbers, but the pro, and if you've heard me talk, this is counterintuitive to everything that I say. The pro of not knowing your numbers is you land jobs you shouldn't get. So you're quoting Betty's for 50 grand, not 100. Or you're quoting something for 20, not 30. And the 30 grand person is going like, there's no way you can do that for 20 grand. And the 20 grand person, which was me at that time, going like, just gotta get it done. And the benefit of, you don't want to get that too wrong, because if you get a big job too wrong, you're full cooked. If you get a big job too wrong and you're not the person doing the labor, you'll be absolutely cooked. There's a window of time when you're on the tools, and when you earn your money for the year, you're not referencing, oh yeah, I worked 3 full-time jobs for that money. I worked every single Saturday. I worked till 10 o'clock every single night. Like a lot of times just look at it and be like, oh, 300 grand, cool. Oh, 200 grand, cool. Oh, 500 grand, cool. You're not referencing back to a time. You should, but you probably just at that stage of business, it's full on, it's go, 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 it's go get them. So, you know, you're able to do some ungodly things because you've got minimal boundaries and you're the person doing the work. So you're probably still making money because you're not taking a wage out of the business. You're probably still making money. It's just not a high wage, and it kind of gets lost in translation of hours. So I had that benefit. So I had that, like, what do you call it, con or whatever, of not making money. But the benefit I had when I finally figured my numbers out, I was like, what the hell? I've been pushing so hard. Where is it? You know, I was like Fat Tony. Where's the money? When am I going to get the money? And so on, right? And then anyway, I remember just going like, I fixed it. I punched this spreadsheet out, which was not as good as our spreadsheet here, but it was good enough. And I was like, holy crap, I've got to be charging X amount for this. And everyone's a little bit different on that, but usually there's a parameter of normal. And I remember fixing it. So I was able to now go to these clients who I had a great relationship with and go, hey guys, I've figured this out. I was like Matt Damon in Good Will Hunting, just like on the chalkboard, figured it out. I need to be charging this. How can we work together to get here? And they were like, well, we love dealing with you guys, so let's make a pathway. So that was actually, you know, you got to pay. This is a incorrect way to look at it, but is it? I don't even know. There's so many gray areas. I got the clients through essentially probably volunteering my time, accidentally, unknowingly, unwillingly. You're just uneducated, right? But now that I had the clients, and you pay for clients somehow, whether it's through Google Ads, through time, through hustle, through quoting, you'll pay for it somehow, generally speaking. The clients you get chipped into, oh my gosh, what an absolute blessing to the business. But I remember now I was able to have conversations, and a lot of them came with us on the price rise journey, which was fantastic. Learned a lot about even raising prices. So my story was one of like, And I suggest you would rather be quiet and profitable than really busy and making no money. Like that was, as much as I can glamorize it here by saying what I just said, it was a terrible time of lots of work and coming into the end of it going like, well, what the hell? Like what am I even doing here? And then corrected it. It was awesome after that. But yeah, it's really interesting. So lots of factors come into play, like where did you grow up, and do you know people in your local area? Do you have a chip in? How long you've been operating for? Like it hinges basically on lots of those environmental factors. You might even say it. Am I pricing too high? So if you're pricing too high, someone sat with us the other day, and I know there's a lot of talk around about the 120 an hour and stuff like that. And I should put a post out on this, but some of our members are killing it on 120 and some would be going backwards. So it's very interesting. You can't just be this like city guy throwing city money out when rural people might break even at $75, $80. And it happens. I've seen it happen a lot. So it's just like, just be careful on who you're listening to in that manner. But if you're overpricing everything, you're probably losing, or you're definitely losing jobs. If you're losing jobs, you're losing the opportunity to get in front of the client. If you're not getting in front of the client, you're not getting the next job. If you're not getting the next job, you're not getting their friend's job or family's job. So it's like, as much as underpricing sucks, and it does, overpricing sucks. And it does, because you're going to have a really hard time growing your business with ungodly rates. And if you're doing like work for Betty at $2,000 and you're 20% out, it's not, you're not going to notice. Like Betty's not, it's 2, 4 or 2 grand. You probably get both those jobs. But if you're 20% out at 200 grand, then you're probably not getting that job. So it's like, and a lot of us, I would say, start small and get bigger. So in saying that, you start with the $5,000 or less jobs, of $1,000 or less jobs. You got lots of $2,000 jobs this week, and then in 5 years' time, you're going to have probably lots of 20 grand, 50 grand, 100 grand. It's just the organic nature of business, right? You grow with your clients. You push for, well, your comfort zone grows and pushes wider. So it's interesting to reference that, you know, a lot of times when you're quoting jobs at high rates when they're smaller, it's quite easy to win because, you know, he's here, he said 600. The job might be worth 400. Like, it's irrelevant to the fact that this person's here, they're willing and ready to do the job, and I don't know anyone else. So it's like, and what if someone said to you, hey, I can do it for 600 now, or you get someone else for 490, what are you going to do? Like, you probably just get it done. I just want it done. Like, I want the house washed. I want the pipe fixed. I want this, you know. So lots of things to consider. Anyway, Cam, what are you thinking?
So I guess there's two things here that I identify with, and a little bit what you sort of chatted, well, a lot about what you sort of touched on there. So there's essentially two things around it all. So there's time in the game, and then there's chip in. So let's just use scenario one. You are Sparky, you finish, you start your own business. We spent a few years out and about. You start your own business. Your uncle's a builder, your dad's a builder, your brother's a builder, and your
Mum's a stripper. No, yeah, that's pretty cool. But like, I was just throwing it out there because it was all cool
your
stuff.
Cousin's a builder, for example, and that basically the only reason you started your own business is because they were like, "We need you." And it's like, "Oh, okay, all right, sweet." So essentially, you started pretty much finished with your employee on Friday, and you started on site on Monday with like work for a period of time. And I'm going to say you probably put someone on almost immediately with that sort of, in that sense, within a workload, and to the point that like you're probably your old man and your uncle probably assisted you to a point with like, hey, this is where the costs are in the market. You know what I mean? So that's what I mean by chip in. So naturally, you had a bit of work that was going pretty well from the get-go. The other one, is the time in the game. So I referenced time in the game. Essentially, you have a couple of dawns, essentially, through your time in the game, generally speaking. So I'm going to say most people has a tipping point around about the 5-year mark. But I'm going to say in that time, from the 0 to 5 years, there's a couple of, I'm not going to call them false dawns, because that's probably too harsh a word, but I'm going to call them a couple of starts as such. And generally speaking, those starts rely around, you've got your first ever hires occurring. You've got ever-changing costs of operations that you're not really aware of, generally speaking. And what these sort of false starts occur with is, for the first time, you're probably dealing with things that are beyond your control, that haven't happened before. So it sort of becomes like sometimes you probably feel like you're taking one step forward, two steps back for a period of time. It's like, I'm sort of moving, but I'm not really moving, and I'm just doing a lot. And I'm moving around. For anyone watching, my hands are like flying all over the screen. Let's knock the microphone. So a couple of bits and pieces around it. So, but what you learn in that time, generally speaking, is that, like, okay, this is what's impacted me. This is what's occurred. So you learn from it. So it's like, it could have been the incorrect hire. So not the right fit for the business. It could have been the right hire, but you weren't prepared for that person. So what I mean by that, like, you weren't organized enough. It was just like, oh, just like, can you just go to, Smith Street and just rough it in? And they're like, yeah, cool. With what? And like, I just go to the wholesale and get all the gear. And then they get there and they're like, where are the plans? And you're like, oh, I'll be there in half an hour. And so, like, it's this whole effect of like, and they're sort of like, oh, what's going on? This isn't really what I sort of thought I'd sign up for. And you're like, how do they not know that they didn't have any plan? Like, and so it all sorts of become an issue. So during that time, you have a bit of a false start along the way, probably a couple of times. But generally, right, is that because you're hustling so hard and putting so much effort in, you sticky taped everything together. So you're sort of papering over the cracks to a point. And so you started to build a reputation, and people are generally more forgiving when you're always around, right? Because you're the person. It's like, Crowy, sweet, look, yeah, that ruffin's not finished. And you're like, oh, no worries, I'll be there in the morning. And you just get it done. It's like, oh, hey, Crowy, when's the fit off going to be done? I'll be there tomorrow. I'll just get it done. And this is Saturday and Sunday. It's like, I'll get it done. Scenario. So you get a couple, you've got time in the game, and then the tipping point occurs. You've learnt along the way, and so you've started to get the volume. Other thing that will occur in that time is, over that period, and I feel like this happens probably post 5 to sort of the 10-year mark, is that during that period is that you've probably started to figure a few things out, right? You've got things sorted in a staffing sense. You've got things sorted on a pricing sense. You've got a few other bits and pieces happening. But what you probably find now is that you're like, probably don't like working for all the clients that I work for. And that could be twofold. You may have outgrown them. You may have changed and evolved as a business yourself, and they've also changed and evolved as a business themselves. So there could be personality clashes with it, like with their employees now and your employees. So you're not dealing with the business owner, much like they're not dealing with you as the business owner anymore. So then you're going through like a second incarnation of what the business and what it wants to be, because you're shifting away from probably what you were doing for a long time, and then you move into different areas or try different things or different types of work. But you're also dealing with different people and different experiences, but you're a lot more sure, I would generally say. So like, you're a lot more confident in your ability and the way you deliver things. So there's a different type of clientele that you end up working for, or you're breaking up with the clientele. I can't handle another overdue payment from this person. And like, when I say overdue, I'm not saying like it came in a week late. I'm talking like 3 months late scenario. So again, and you tolerate it for a while. So in regards to like the time in the game part, is I think it's the biggest influence, but it also understanding that you're probably going to relive a few bits and pieces multiple times. So what I mean by that is that you may have gone through a number of staff in certain periods, and then you're going to go through a number of staff again. You might have gone through a few different clients. You're going to go through a few different clients again. So you end up having a few different incarnations.
Yeah, and the clients might come back, all this kind of stuff. But there's no substitute for time in game. Can you do anything earlier? Of course you can. It's dependent on, I think some people come out of the gates too soon, and they want to make nuts money too soon. And the people that I see making like nuts money, I call nuts money like $1 million a year. So that's like, if this podcast ages, it's going to be like Dr. Evil, like $1 million. And they're just laughing at me. But like that's what I would consider the hyper positive result. I don't know anyone that would be unhappy with that personally. So that's a great result. But there have been in and around, I'd say in and around coaching or education for 5 or 6 years. And I'm talking before even Sparky Coach. Like some of our most successful members have been in and around coaching for 5 or 6 years. Sparky Coach has been gone for 3. So it's like, it precedes Sparky Coach. It's what do you call it? Like before Christ, after Christ. It's like BS. Before Sparky Coach,
I
BSC.
like that. I like that.
And I think they might have been operating since 2010, 2015. And not saying you can't achieve something better than that or quicker than that. One of our members is doing nuts things after 3 years. So that's super cool. And I think but even that, they might be 30 and not 22. So when you're starting a business at 35, 40, it's much different to starting a business at 25. 35, you've got
Way different.
wisdom, experience, probably a good client list, at that point, like, good hit list. So you know what you're into and what you're not into, your specialty. At 23, 24, if you don't have kids, you've got time where, you don't have to be home for dinner at 3:30. So you can just boost you might be single and ready to mingle, right? And then in that case, well, you got nowhere to be besides, I don't know, soccer training on a Tuesday night and OzTag on a Wednesday night. So there's interesting parameters around it that factor in as well. So I just think if you're starting a business and you have kids, there's got to be an incredibly honest discussion with your partner. Hey, this will work, but it's going to take time, and you need time. So you can't be at everything at the start of it, but you can't be at like I can be at everything now. Like I'm at pretty much everything. So, and I think anyone who's run a business for long enough will be at everything. You'll be at dinner, you'll be at breakfast, and you'll be at the hat parade. When you're starting a business, that's the goal. But it's going to be difficult. So you've got to be an open conversation. It's like I can be home for 2 dinners, with the goal with 3 in 6 months. I don't want to preach what we don't preach. I'm just challenging it. Like, is everyone on the same page here? Because if there's too much expectation time wise on the business owner, it's incredibly difficult. The other flip side is you don't want to go just boost into the ether and handle everything by yourself and not be at anything and then be like, this is what running a business is. So it's like you can't be at everything, but you can't be away from everything. There's a healthy balance and there's seasons. And if a season of either side has gone too far, you've got to openly talk about it. So if you're too much at everything, something's going to suffer in the early stage of business. If you're too much not at everything, your relationship's going to suffer. So the very thing that you want to do this for, your partner and kids and future financial benefit, is now at risk because you were boosting too hard. Not only that, it's your cost of ops is way down because you're volunteering the admin. So now you're stressed, tired, anxious, busy, and then you go from being a hero at work to a villain at home. And it's much easier to be a hero at work. Let me tell you one thing. It's very easy to be a hero at work. It's very hard to be a villain at home. So you've got to find that balance. And if you're consistently like, we're not at anything, well, I'm going back to work where people appreciate me. So you've got to find a healthy balance. If you're in a partnership in terms of like with a wife, husband, whatever, have the open conversation and then and find out what success means for you and just I think just write some plans out and goals out, which is probably going to be I want to have a beer or a kombucha, looking at the sunset over at Acreage, kids on the trampoline. Probably not too dissimilar to that. I want to live in town and walk to my coffees and work 4 days a week. So we'll get some like loose direction. And if you're pushing over 40 hours consistently and you're not in that stage of business, that's an issue. It's a huge issue. You've got no headspace. So yeah, in wrapping up, there's no right or wrong. You can achieve lots of things. A few environmental factors, a few financial factors. Do you have a buffer financially? Do you not? Do you have a mortgage and kids? Do you not? Do you have a long-term relationship? Do you not? Like, are you expected anywhere? Are you not? There's so many factors, but I would just say define your own version of success and don't get stuck in a season. If you're really busy and you're stuck and you've been working so much, something might have to change. If you can't take 3 days off, something might have to change. And if you're at everything and there's not a serious illness attached across there, something might have to change.
No, I think they're all valid points, and I think ultimately, at the end of the day, the success part of it all is it's like as you touched on there. It's what do you want out of it? What do you want out of the business? So I think that really defines what the success would look like. What I do want to highlight here around it is the realistic expectations of getting to that as well. So unless you have the chip in, it will be considerably, I don't really want to say harder or tougher. It will just be a longer journey. So it will take longer. That's framed probably
Well,
in the best way.
you're driving from a different spot. It's like
Yeah.
driving from Sydney to Byron Bay or
hu-
Coffs Harbour to Byron Bay. It's just your start point.
That's yeah,
Your
really good
start
analogy
point, it's
there.
not right or wrong. The start point is different.
The start point is different. So having a look at, and I've said it heaps and I've touched on it, and I think Jake touched on it in the live event around the comparison is the thief of joy. So a lot of the time, and you touched on it too, Crowley, around the competitive versus comparison side of thing. It's all good to be competitive, right? And wanting to better yourself and move forward. But the comparison part is, I think, often probably an unfair take on yourself. And it can be quite, I think, detrimental to yourself as a person.
Yeah, comparison is how I would compare that. I think there's a healthy competition that needs to happen to push you to be your best. But if you're comparing to other people, oh, I should have been, could have been, would have been, look at that. Like, and how do you determine the difference? Is a healthy competition should inspire you, should motivate you, and an unhealthy comparison, in my opinion, should be like, how do you know if you're unhealthily comparing yourself to someone else? Then you get frustrated at their success and you get excited by their failure. So frustrated. How do they do that? Oh my gosh, that person's just put another person on. Oh my gosh, that person's doing this revenue. Oh my gosh, like that. It's annoying me. And then, like, that person's rolled into bankruptcy administration. I knew that was going to happen. Sucked in. Like, yeah, I knew something could have been wrong. That's something that had to. So it's like, how do you know you can reference your own spirit to be like, am I happy for their success or am I annoyed by their success? And that's competitive versus comparison. I know there's other loose ways you can take that, but generally speaking, that's a good analogy. And just run your own race, be the best version of yourself you can be. Have some fun on the journey and get some people around you that are some healthy competition. Someone that's going to slap you in the face a little bit, not hopefully physically, but metaphorically. Someone's going to be like, hey, did you get that quota? Hey, what are you, like, this is friends. Like, that was the best part of the live event for me. There's some good teaching and training, but just getting around business owners that, as much as you, like, this is the classic cliche coaching terminology, is, like-minded people, that are wanting to achieve something, that are wanting to achieve something for themselves, but for their family, but for in their industry, in their area, make everything better. Super cool. So, yeah, that's my wrap up. Stay healthy in the head.
I like it. Enjoy. Go boost today.
See you guys. Bye. That's a wrap on another podcast. Whatever you're doing, don't be too busy to stop and check if you're making money. And above all else, you know the rules. Be kind. See you soon.